What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So today I'm bringing you a tutorial on how to beat SPYRAL. Earlier in the week, we did an introduction to SPYRAL, talking about in depth all the cards and how they interact with one another, and then we followed that up with the SPYRAL combo tutorial, showing you pretty much by taking all of those cards how they interact with one another and the absolutely crazy boards that the deck is capable of producing. Well, now we're going to be telling you how to beat this deck, because this is a very, very strong deck, and it's definitely something worth noting, because if you're going to any high-level event, hell, even if you're going to your locals, they're probably going to be incredibly plagued by SPYRAL, and you're going to want to make sure that you're prepared for this matchup. Now, when you look at some of the boards that SPYRAL is capable of producing, there's a lot of things the boards have going for themselves, and arguably this is the strongest going first deck we've had in a very long time. Obviously, Zodiac and some other extremely strong decks have been up there as well, but these boards are pretty much just like, if they go off, you're not going to come back from it, because you're dealing with multiple forms of disruption, from Firewall Dragon, you've got SPYRAL Sleeper, who's equipped with a SPYRAL Last Resort, meaning it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, it can't be targeted. The SPYRAL Resort is protecting both the Last Resort and the Sleeper from being targeted as well. You've got stuff like Utility Wire in the background, they might have hand traps in addition to all of that, and soon enough we're going to be having the introduction of Tri-Gate Wizard on top of everything else this deck is able to do, just pretty much completely making the deck impenetrable to so many different forms of disruption, because that free negation that Tri-Gate Wizard provides for the deck really takes it over the top and makes the boards rather impregnable. So how do we deal with this deck? Well, SPYRAL Sleeper is a weakness of the deck that we can exploit in the right circumstances. Now, it is rather difficult, because if you think about it, you have to get rid of the SPYRAL Resort that is equipped to the SPYRAL Sleeper before you can hit the Sleeper, and before you can even hit the Resort, you have to hit the Field Spell, which means you have to get rid of 2 cards before you can even touch the Sleeper out of your opening 6-card hand, and that seems rather difficult to do. But do keep in mind that if Sleeper is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, it will nuke the SPYRAL player's entire board and then special summon out a Super Agent, which is irrelevant because you just nuked their entire board anyway, so you got the full value off of that. So just keep in mind that if you have an opportunity to exploit SPYRAL Sleeper's weakness, that is something you're going to definitely want to take advantage of. But we're going to be talking about, more specifically, some cards that you can use whether in your main deck or your side deck that are going to give you an edge when going against SPYRAL. And there's no better group of cards going against SPYRAL than the hand traps. It's really kind of sad when you look at it in context that these decks that were competing at the most recent YCS, being in Dallas, were main decking anywhere from like 8 to 11 to sometimes 14 hand traps in the case of Acepcion's Invoked hand trap deck profile. If you want to check that out, I'll have that link in the description. But it actually works, because if you're able to prevent the SPYRAL player from getting to that incredibly strong board, then you're able to actually, have a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And potentially make a counter attack in terms of building up your board and preventing them from being able to counter you. So what are the best hand traps to use against SPYRAL? Well, frankly, you can use a lot of them. You can use Droll and Lockbird. Droll and Lockbird is arguably the most effective hand trap, because the deck does so much searching that a well-timed Droll and Lockbird, meaning the second they search anything, can just flat out end their turn entirely. Because, yeah, sure, they can still do stuff and they can still summon Double Helix and do all these different things, but they're going to be left with a very lackluster board in the end, because if they don't have the correct tools, like if they don't already have Sleeper searched, they're not going to be able to summon it at the end of their combo, which means that's one less threat you have to worry about. That means they also can't search off cards off of Quick Fix, they can't search anything, whatever they search off of Double Helix has to be special summoned to the field, and usually it's Master Plan or Quick Fix, and they can't add cards to their hand because they're under Droll and Lockbird. It puts them in a very awkward position, and yes, I know Droll and Lockbird is currently an incredibly expensive card, but there's a reason for it, and it's because it's that strong against SPYRAL. And frankly, this is a card that people should probably be main decking, side decking at the very least, but main decking might be better, because if we're going into a heavy SPYRAL dominated format, which based off of YCS Dallas looks like is what we're going into, this is the best hand trap you can possibly have going second. Now, there are some other ones as well. Max C is also a very good deterrent. You have to think, though, Max C is a little bit of an iffy card because even though they're going to be giving you a ton of cards off of it, the boards that Spiral is capable of making sometimes really can just flat out win even under a Max C because they still have like anywhere from like 4 to 6 forms of disruption, and all the cards at your disposal, a lot of them have once per turn effects. And so even though you'll be able to have like 20-25 cards in hand, maybe if they go through an entire Spiral combo, depending on what you have in your main deck, it might not even fucking matter how many cards they give you off of Max C. Now, I will say, more often than not, is going to be enough of a deterrent that it's going to force your opponent into an awkward position where they're not going to want to give you all those cards just in case you can break your board, in case you happen to be maining something that happens to be anti-Spiral hate. But there is, compared to games past, where Max C might not even matter. Spiral is a deck unlike Zodiac that can OTK through a Max C, where Zodiac had a lot of difficulty doing that, and that's what made Max C so powerful back in that format. So that's something you want to keep in mind with. It's a very powerful card, but depending on the timing of it, it might not actually matter whether or not you Max C them at all. Another good hand trap is Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. And at the same note, I also want to talk about Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit as well, because both of these cards are good in their own right, but they're both good against one card in particular, and that is Spiral Double Helix. Now, the thing about Spiral Double Helix is that if you can stop the effect of Helix, or if you can destroy it in its in the activation of its effect, that's actually really good because Spiral Double Helix is only once per turn. So if you Ash Blossom, they're not going to be able to use the effect of Helix, and their turn is kind of put to a halt because they kind of committed their resources to the Helix. They were hoping they were going to get the Master Plan or the Quick Fix, and now they're not going to be able to get any of those searches, and now they really are kind of just at a standstill because they were kind of relying on that play to go through. Ghost Ogre works in the same fashion. Now, it will still get the effect, however, because Spiral Double Helix is no longer on the field, you can't special summon the monster because Spiral Double Helix can't be pointing to any zones if it's no longer on the field, meaning the card that the Spiral player takes off of Double Helix has to be added to the hand, and since they've most likely already normal summoned to get to the Double Helix in the first place, whatever they add to hand isn't really going to matter because they're already going to be in a position where they're pretty much done with their turn. Yeah, sure, they may end on a sleeper, but if all you have to deal with is a Spiral sleeper going into your turn, that puts you in really fucking good shape. So again, Ash Blossom and Ghost Ogre are two incredibly powerful cards. Not to mention, taking Double Helix out of it, you can use Ogre and Ash to hit cards like Spiral Resort. You can use Ash to hit a myriad of the cards in the deck that search cards, you know, and just filter through them all, because in a Spiral player's turn, if they go through the whole combo, sometimes they're filtering through almost half of their deck, and Ash Blossom can hit any of those cards. Ghost Ogre is a little bit less effective, but it can hit the field spell since it's already face up when activating. It can hit enough important cards that it's definitely worth running. Now, another hand trap that is on the cheaper side, so for you budget players that are looking for an option, Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries can still be very effective, because if you can Reaper the Double Helix before they go into it, it puts a pretty big stall on their turn. Now, it doesn't make the deck completely unplayable because there's still a wide variety of Link monsters at the deck's disposal, but stopping Double Helix can really just put a really big pain in their plans, and it makes it very difficult for them to do the most optimal play without that Double Helix. It is a little bit expensive because you not only have to buy the Winter Cherries, but you also need to have the Double Helix as well, but frankly, compared to all of the other options currently available in terms of hand traps and how expensive they are, Ghost Reaper is actually on the cheaper side, and so that's something that, you know, if you really don't have the money to afford something like Ash Blossom or Draw and Lock, Ghost Reaper is like your budget alternative, if anything. The last hand trap I wanted to discuss is Psyframe Gear Gamma, because Gamma acts in a very similar way to Ash and Ogre, except not only will it negate the effect of something like Double Helix, but it'll destroy it, and you'll also be able to special summon out a Psyframe Driver, which may not be important when you're going second, but if you're going first and you're using something like a Terraforming to search a field spell, and your opponent tries to either use Draw and Lock or Ash Blossom on that effect, you can chain your Psyframe Gear Gamma, get out the driver, and now not only did you stop that hand trap, which was one card in their hand, now you get to make a Psyframe Lord Omega for free, ripping a second card out of their hand, and typically whatever deck you're playing, if you can establish a board, they're only going to have 4 cards left in their hand because they're going to draw their 6th card for turn, and since you already pretty much wasted 2 of their cards, whatever board you can build should pretty much be able to manage and outdo anything else they have. So while Cyframe Gear Gamma is a little bit risky, and you know, it is also another one of these pricey hand traps, it's something that can be incredibly effective if used correctly and at the right time. Now I wanted to just divert away from the hand traps because although they are the best options, there are some other things you can do to help combat Spiral in general. And the big thing is board wipes. Now, when we do get Tri-Gate Wizard, this is going to change a lot because Tri-Gate Wizard gives the deck a free negation of any card, and that's really bad because right now there is no Tri-Gate Wizard, meaning the deck is susceptible to board wipes. So cards like Dark Hole, Raigeki, Torrential Tribute, and that's a really big deal. Now, more often than not, their Spiral Sleeper is going to be equipped with Spiral Last Resort, meaning it's going to be impervious to these board wipes. But again, if you're using one of your 6 cards to remove all of the other threats on your opponent's field, and all you have to deal with now is a Sleeper, you should have 5 other cards in your hand that can deal with one source of disruption to be able to counter that Sleeper and build up your own board. If not, it's still going to be a really rough time. On the notion of board wipes, though, evenly matched is also interesting, but also poses the same problem. You're relinquishing your main phase and your battle phase, and even if you evenly match them, your opponent's still going to keep that Spiral Sleeper on the field, so even by doing that, it's going to put you in an awkward position because now you're in main phase 2, so you don't even have your battle phase, and you're still having to deal with a Sleeper just like you would if you had any other regular board wipe. To be fair, you are hitting cards like Spiral Resort and maybe possible back row, which is very big in comparison to something like the board wipes, but again, it's something you have to think if it's worth the trade-off, and Tri-Gate Wizard makes all of the cards a very big issue moving forward because of the fact that it can pretty much just negate all of these, and then you're going to be at 1 less card anyway, and still having to deal with anywhere from 4 to 6 forms of disruption, depending on how big of a board the Spiral player created. Now, last but not least, I did want to discuss some more, I guess, general options you could either have in your main or side deck that really hurt the deck. Starting off with Kaijus. Kaijus are really good because not only can you get rid of something like Spiral Sleeper so you don't have to worry about it, you can get rid of stuff like Tri-Gate Wizard. So Tri-Gate Wizard, being able to Kaiju over it and then use something like one of your board wipes is one of the best possible moves you can do because now your board wipe is going to go through, but again, they still might have a Spiral Sleeper, so it's kind of hard to gauge just, you know, in pure hypotheticals how effective that might be. But you can get rid of the Tri-Gate, the Sleeper, you can also get rid of Firewall Dragon or any other big boss monsters that are very difficult for your deck to deal with. Book of Eclipse was also an interesting tech that came out of YCS Dallas because not only can it flip the Sleeper face down and it doesn't target, which is a really big deal, but it also can disrupt cards like Baguska to ensure that your monsters can actually use their effects and play on your turn. Now, the biggest downside of Book of Eclipse is that it doesn't work on Link monsters, and more often than not, your opponent's going to have maybe a Firewall or 2, a double Helix, and again, Tri-Gate Wizard once it gets released. So that's going to be a very big issue. So Book of Eclipse might not be the best option, but it's definitely something to stop the non-Link monsters in the Spiral deck's arsenal. Another thing is that if you're going first, using Artifact Sanctum and Artifact Scythe can be incredibly crippling because by using Scythe's effect to lock out your opponent's use of the extra deck, pretty much they're just going to have a deck that they can't do anything at all. I mean, the best they're going to be able to do is summon out a Sleeper, but even then, that's the best play they can do going second with 6 cards in hand. That's going to put you in really, really good shape, and you should have plenty of stuff from going first to be able to disrupt them anyway. It's just a very good tactic to help being able to stall them from proceeding forward with their turn. And last but not least, since we're still talking about going first cards, the Solemn Brigade is also incredibly effective against Spiral. We're talking Solemn Strike, Solemn Warning, and as well as Solemn Scolding, because Scolding can provide, you know, the fact that it pretty much blanket negates anything can be really huge, because not only can you negate the effect of something that you really don't want to go through on your opponent's field, but you can also stop your opponent countering you by using stuff like board wipes. It can stop hand traps as well as Solemn Strike. So there's a lot of good things that Solemn Scolding has going. going for it. But these Solemn cards are very powerful because when going second, Spiral struggles to kind of get through these counter traps, and being able to just hit something like Double Helix, hell, even being able to hit Quick Fix so that it doesn't able to search the big red out of the deck, that can just be absolutely crippling, and they might scoop up their cards from there. So guys, that's it for my how to beat Spiral tutorial. Let me know down in the comments what your guys' favorite options are in terms of countering this deck. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. If there's any cards I missed, be sure to let me know down below. Again, I really want to hear what you guys have to say. So guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. And if you found this video helpful, consider backing me on Patreon, because just by pledging only $1 a month, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.